I woke up with someone slamming the door. It was just 6 a.m. I sat up on the couch where I had been sleeping. My back hurt. My legs were stiff. But that didn't matter, I was used to pain. My daughter, Juliana, stormed into the living room. Her face looked angry. Again. "Mom," she said, folding her arms. "We need to talk." I knew that tone. It was the same tone she used when she didn't like the way I washed the dishes. Or when I forgot to turn off the bathroom light. Or when I asked to spend time with my grandson. I nodded slowly. "All right, dear. What is it?" She sighed loud like I had already done something wrong. Then she walked across the living room and picked up my small bag. The same one I came with when she invited me to live with her last year. Except now, she wasn't inviting me. "You've been here too long," she said. "Michael is starting to get uncomfortable with your presence. This house is too full. I think it's time you figure things out on your own." Her words felt like slaps on my face. My heart started beating fast. What do you mean?" I asked, standing up slowly. "I have nowhere else to go." Juliana didn't look me in the eyes. She walked over to the small drawer and pulled out something. It was money. Just a small folded note. She walked back to me and pressed it into my hand. "Here. It's $8. It should be enough for a bus, or something," she said. Then she looked away, like she couldn't even bear to look at me anymore. I didn't speak. My mouth opened but no sound came out. My chest felt like it was breaking open. She walked over to the front door, opened it and tossed my handbag outside. It landed on the porch like garbage. The wind made the old zipper rattle. "Mum, I'm sorry but we've moved on. You should too." And with that she slammed the door shut. Just like that. I stood there. In my pajamas. In my daughter's house. With $8 in my hand and no place to go. I stepped outside. It was cold. Not the kind of cold that hurts your skin. No. This cold went straight into your heart. I picked up my old bag, still worn from years of use, and walked away. My daughter didn't come back to call me. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't ask where I would sleep that night. As I walked down the street, my mind went back to the past. I remembered the day she was born. How I cried when I held her for the first time. She was so small, so beautiful. I promised her then that I'd always protect her. When her father died, she was only 5. I had nothing left. Just a little room and broken dreams. But I worked hard. Cleaned houses. I scrubbed toilets. I even sold fruits on the roadside just to keep her in school. Many nights I didn't eat just so she could. Many Christmases I gave her the only gift I could afford. A used storybook, a second-hand dress. But she always smiled and hugged me tight. "Mummy, you're the best mummy in the world," she'd say. So what happened? What made her grow cold? Was it money? Was it pride? Or did she just forget the woman who gave up everything so she could rise? I reached a small gas station. There was a bench outside. I sat there, hugging myself to keep warm. Cars drove by. People looked at me and kept moving. I felt invisible. Inside my bag I had nothing but an old phone with a dead battery, some tissues, a picture of Juliana as a child, and a small folded piece of paper. Pulled it out. It was a lottery ticket. I had bought it about a month ago, just after Juliana shouted at me for accidentally using the wrong towel. I had walked to the store that day, tears in my eyes, and used my last few coins to buy it. "Maybe my luck will change," I had said to the cashier, forcing a smile. I forgot all about it. Until now. I held it in my hand and shook my head. "What's the use?" I whispered. Still, I put it safely in the inside pocket of my bag. Not because I believed it would change anything, but because it was all I had left. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on that bench and listened to the wind. I thought of all the times I had rocked Juliana to sleep when she had nightmares. How I walked her to school. How I held her when she cried over a broken heart. And now, she couldn't even give me a ride to a shelter. I didn't cry anymore. I had cried too much already. I just sat there. Broken. But somehow deep inside a voice whispered, "It's not over yet. The sun rose slowly the next morning. I was still on the bench, stiff from the cold. My back ached. My feet were swollen. I hadn't slept at all. Few people walked past me. Some looked. Some didn't. No one stopped. I pressed the $8 Juliana gave me deep into my coat pocket like it meant something. But in truth it meant nothing. Not when your own child had just thrown you away like trash. I walked to the back of the gas station and splashed cold water on my face. There was a mirror hanging above the sink. Old, cracked, and dusty. I looked at myself for the first time in days. Who was this woman staring back at me? My gray hair was tied in a loose bun. My eyes had bags under them. My skin looked tired. But my heart, that was the part that hurt most. Not from hunger or cold. From betrayal. How did I go from the woman who used to make breakfast every morning for her daughter, to someone sleeping outside with no home and just $8 to her name? As I walked slowly along the road, I saw children in school uniforms running to catch the school bus. It made me remember when Juliana was that age. Every morning she used to shout, "Mummy, tie my shoelace." And I always did. I would kiss her on the forehead and tell her, "Go and make me proud." And she did. She studied hard, got into college, made something of herself. I cheered the loudest when she graduated. I even used the last of my savings to buy a new dress just for that day. So how did we get here? Where did I go wrong? I walked for what felt like hours. My legs were weak. My shoes were too thin. But I didn't know where to go, so I just kept walking. I reached a small park with a few benches. I sat down again. That's when I remembered the lottery ticket inside my bag. I pulled it out and stared at it. It looked old and crumpled, like it had been forgotten for years, even though it was just a few weeks old. I smiled bitterly. Maybe it's worth a laugh, I whispered to myself. But then, something stirred inside me. Tiny whisper. Check it. I stood up, determined to find a place where I could scan the numbers. There was a small convenience store just a few blocks away. I had passed it many times before when Juliana used to send me there to buy milk. I made my way there slowly. The man behind the counter looked up as I entered. He had kind eyes, maybe in his 50s. "Good morning, ma'am," he said politely. He nodded. "Good morning," I whispered. I reached into my bag and pulled out the old ticket. "Can you check this for me?" I asked, almost embarrassed. "Of course," he smiled. He took it gently from my hand and scanned it using the small machine behind the counter. Then he stopped. He stared at the screen. His hand froze. His smile slowly faded and turned into a look of shock. Ma'am, are you sitting down?" he asked. My heart jumped. "Why?" He looked at me again. You just won." I blinked. "Excuse me. You just won the lottery. $1.2 million. He held the ticket carefully like it was made of gold. "This is real. It's valid. You need to sign the back. Right now." I couldn't breathe. My legs felt like they disappeared. I can't. I don't understand," I whispered. He smiled kindly and ran around the counter to get a chair for me. "Sit, ma'am. Please. Take deep breaths." My hands were shaking. My eyes filled with tears. But this time it wasn't sadness. It was shock. It was the feeling that maybe, just maybe, my life wasn't over. Can I really claim it?" I asked. "Yes," he nodded. "You'll need ID. Lawyer. But this," he held the ticket up again, "this changes everything." I left that store in silence. My feet floated. My hands trembled. I clutched the ticket like it was my last heartbeat. I didn't call Juliana. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I went to a small internet cafe and asked for help finding a lawyer who could help with a lottery claim. A young woman there looked me up and down, her face softening when she saw my torn bag and worn-out clothes. She helped me find a number. Called it. The lawyer's voice was calm. "Come in tomorrow morning," he said. "We'll make sure you're safe and protected." I hadn't heard that word in a long time. That night, I used a few of the $8 to buy bread and water. I sat on a bench near the lawyer's office, watching the stars above me. I didn't cry. Not this time. Because even though my heart still ached, even though my own daughter had betrayed me, even though I still had no home, I had hope. And in my hand I had a ticket that could change everything. The next morning I woke up to the sound of birds. For a moment I forgot where I was. Then I felt the hard wooden bench beneath me, and I remembered everything. The old bag, the $8, my daughter shutting the door in my face, and the lottery ticket, folded neatly in my coat pocket like a quiet secret. I stood up and stretched slowly. My bones ached, but my spirit was awake for the first time in years. I had an appointment, not just with a lawyer but with something bigger. Oh. The lawyer's office was a simple white building with flowers outside. I walked in slowly, feeling out of place. My clothes were still dusty. My shoes made soft squeaks. The receptionist smiled at me anyway. "Good morning. You must be Mrs. Margaret," I said. "Margaret Ellis." She nodded. "Mr. Carter is expecting you. Please right this way." The hallway smelled like fresh paint and lemon. My heart beat faster with every step. At the end of the hall, a tall man in a navy blue suit stood and smiled. "You must be Margaret," he said. "I'm Jordan Carter. Come in, please." He offered me tea. I shook my head. I was too nervous to drink. He sat across from me and looked kindly into my eyes. "So, I heard you've got something life-changing with you." I reached into my coat and pulled out the lottery ticket. He took it gently and examined it under a small light. Then he typed something into his computer. After a few seconds, he looked up and nodded. "It's real. The numbers match. You've won the jackpot." I bit my lip. "Can I really get the money?" "Yes," he said. "But we need to claim it the right way. With your name, your ID, and full protection." "Protection?" "Yes." He smiled. "Trust me, the moment people find out you're a millionaire, friends, strangers, even family might come running. You need to be ready." I looked down. Even family. Especially family. The next few days were a blur. He helped me open a private bank account. We got new clothes. I signed papers, showed my ID, and within a week, $1.2 million sat in my name. I cried when I saw the bank balance. Real tears. The kind that come from deep inside the heart. Not from pain this time, but from shock. Relief. "Oi," Mr. Carter asked gently. "What do you want to do now, Margaret?" Thought for a long time. The answer was clear. I want to disappear. Just for a while. I want peace. I want to think. We booked a small apartment outside the city. Quiet. The first thing I bought was a proper bed. Then some new clothes. Then I bought myself a warm breakfast, eggs, toast, and hot tea. The kind I hadn't had in years. Every morning I walked to the park. Birds sang. Children played. I sat on a bench and just breathed. And slowly I started to feel like a person again. Not just someone's mother. Not just someone's servant. But a woman with a name, a heart, and now, a future. One evening, while flipping through a magazine in a small bookstore, I saw something that made me stop. A picture of a gated estate. Big houses, long driveways, fancy cars parked in front. And right there in the article was Juliana's house. The article was about top real estate in the city. And one of the homes featured belonged to my daughter. I read every word. They described her house as a rising star's home. It said she often hosted parties. And that her husband had just bought the property next door to expand their lifestyle. But the house next door, it was still for sale. I walked back to my apartment in silence. My heart beat faster with every step. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling. I thought about how she looked at me that day. With shame in her eyes. Like I was a stain on her perfect life. I remembered the $8. The slammed door. The cheap bag thrown outside like garbage. And then I whispered to myself. She won't forget me. Not again. The next morning I called Mr. Carter. I want to buy a house, I said. Wonderful, he said. What kind are you looking for? Pause. Then I said, one next to my daughter's. He was quiet for a moment. Then he replied, all right, Margaret. Let's make it happen. We didn't use my real name. Mr. Carter arranged everything through a private trust. No one would know it was me, until I was ready. We visited the estate in secret. The house was huge, 3 stories with glass walls and tall gates, marble floors, spiral staircase, backyard garden, everything I had never imagined owning. I walked through each room like I was dreaming. Then I stood at the window that faced Juliana's home. I saw her son playing outside. I saw her laughing with her friends. She looked happy. She looked like she had forgotten me. And that's when I decided I would return. But not as the woman she kicked out. I would return as someone new, someone strong, someone she would never dare to throw away again. The papers were signed. The keys were handed to my lawyer. Just like that, the mansion next to Juliana's became mine. But I didn't move in right away. I needed time. Time to become someone else. Not the poor, tired mother who once begged to stay in her daughter's house. No, I wanted to walk through those gates as a woman of grace, confidence, and power. I started small. New clothes. Nothing loud or shiny, just elegant. Long dresses in soft colors, matching shoes, gentle perfume. Then I fixed my hair. For years, I had kept it tied up in a bun, hiding the gray. Now, I let it down and had it styled beautifully. The woman I saw in the mirror was someone I hadn't seen in decades. Then came my posture. I stood taller, shoulders back, chin up. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because I remembered who I was. I was Margaret Ellis. The woman who raised a daughter on her own. The woman who once had nothing but $8. And now owned a mansion. 2 weeks later, I gave the green light to the movers. The giant truck rolled into the estate early one morning. Gardeners followed. Designers. Decorators. Everything was planned. My lawyer made sure it was done quietly but firmly. The neighborhood watched. Heads turned. Whispers spread. But Juliana, she didn't know yet. Not until she saw me. That afternoon, I stepped out of a sleek black car in front of my new home. My long cream coat brushed the ground. I wore pearl earrings. My silver-gray hair flowed in soft waves around my shoulders. I stood in front of the gate as it opened slowly. Juliana was outside watering her flowers. She turned casually at first, then froze. Her jaw dropped. "Mum," she gasped. I smiled warmly. "Hello, Juliana." She blinked fast. I don't understand. What are you doing here?" I tilted my head gently. "Moving in. I just bought this place." She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "You bought this house?" "Yes," I said. "Isn't it lovely? I always admired the neighborhood." She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked at the moving truck. "But how? You didn't have anything. You had nothing. I gave you." I raised my hand politely to stop her. "You gave me $8, I said calmly. "And I used it to build something beautiful." Her cheeks turned red. I turned away and walked slowly into my new home, the sound of my heels echoing on the marble floor. The days that followed were quiet, at first. Juliana didn't come over. She didn't call. But I saw her peeking through her curtains. I saw her looking at the cars that came and went from my house. I saw her watching as decorators brought in fine furniture, chandeliers, velvet curtains, soft rugs. My house glowed at night, warm, soft lights shining from the windows like gold. I made friends with the neighbors. Kind people. Some retired, some young. I invited them for tea, for games, for walks in my garden. They called me Madam Margaret. They respected me. For the first time in years, I was surrounded by people who saw me, not as a burden, but as a woman worth listening to. One day, Juliana's son, little Henry, came knocking at my gate. I was in the garden, planting roses. "Grandma," he called. I smiled wide. "Henry." He ran into my arms and hugged me tight. "Mum said you moved away. She said you weren't coming back." Well, sweetheart, I said softly, brushing his hair. Sometimes people say things when they're angry. But I never stopped loving you. He looked around. Your house is prettier than ours, he whispered. I laughed gently. Shoo, don't say that. But you can come play here any time. That evening, Juliana showed up. She was angry but trying to hide it. Please don't confuse my son, she said sharply. I'm not confusing him, I replied. He came to me. I welcomed him. I'll always welcome him. She stared at me. For the first time in a long time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not the kind of fear that comes from danger. The kind that comes from realizing you pushed the wrong person too far. Juliana tried to be friendly after that. She brought cookies. She smiled tightly. She asked how I was doing. But I saw through it. She wasn't sorry. She was just shocked. She thought I'd disappear after she threw me out. She never imagined I'd return. Better, richer, stronger. She didn't know how to handle it. So I kept my distance. I remained polite but cold. One morning, I was watering the front lawn when she walked up to me. Mum, I just want to say I'm sorry. I looked at her slowly. For what, Juliana? Asked. She blinked. For everything. I wasn't thinking. I had so much going on, and I didn't handle it well. He nodded. You didn't. But I want us to be close again, she said. I mean it. I tilted my head. I'll think about it, I said softly. But you don't get to throw someone away like trash, and then expect them to come running when you suddenly remember they matter. Her eyes filled with tears. But I didn't hug her. I simply walked back inside my house and closed the door. Days passed. Then weeks. I stayed in my mansion, watering my roses, cooking my favorite meals, reading on my balcony, and enjoying quiet mornings with a warm cup of tea. Sometimes I saw Juliana through the window. Her husband didn't seem as warm as before. She no longer looked so proud. There was a heaviness in her eyes now, like a woman who realized she had made a big mistake but didn't know how to fix it. She waved at me once from her garden. I nodded politely, but I didn't wave back. I didn't hate her. But I no longer chased her love. One Saturday I decided to host a small lunch gathering. Just neighbors, about 6 kind people I had come to like. I called it a new beginning celebration. Mr. Carter came too, dressed in a brown suit, smiling like a proud uncle. The table was set under a white umbrella in the backyard. Fresh fruit, cold drinks, warm pastries, and music playing softly in the background. Everyone laughed. Smile. And then I saw her. Juliana. She stood at her upstairs window, watching everything. The look on her face. Regret. Confusion. She never imagined I could build this life. She had kicked me out with $8 in my hand. Now I was living next door, like royalty. Later that evening she knocked on my door. I opened it slowly. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept well. Her hair was tied back. Her voice was small. Mum, she said. Can I come in? Paused. Then opened the door wider. She stepped in and looked around, eyes moving across the shining floor, the soft curtains, the pictures on the wall. This is beautiful, she whispered. Thank you, I said. She sat down, wringing her hands. I keep thinking about what I did to you. I said nothing. She continued. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought maybe you'd figure things out if I pushed you. I raised an eyebrow. Pushed me. She nodded quickly. I was stressed. Michael was complaining. The house was loud. You always ask questions. I just felt tired. And so, you gave me $8 and told me to figure things out? Asked gently. She looked down. I'm so sorry. I took a deep breath. I don't hate you, Juliana, I said softly. But I'll never forget how you made me feel. How I begged to stay. How you shut the door. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I was wrong. He nodded. Yes, you were. We sat in silence. Then she said, You're different now. I am, I replied. I found peace. I found value in myself again. I realized I was more than someone's mother. I'm a woman with dreams too. She smiled a little. You look happy. I am. She looked around again. I never thought this would be your life. Neither did I said. But it is. After she left that night, I stood by the window and looked at the stars. So many nights I cried under the sky, wondering if life would ever be kind to me again. I had everything I never even dared to pray for. But more than the money, more than the house, I had dignity, had power. The kind that comes when you've been crushed, and you choose to rise anyway. The next day, Juliana tried to call me. I didn't answer. A few days later, she invited me for dinner. I said I was busy. She started sending little gifts, flowers, pastries, cards with messages like, I miss you and, please come by. I didn't throw them away. But I didn't respond either. Because some wounds don't heal with flowers. Then came a Sunday morning. I walked into a cafe near town, dressed in a navy blue gown, soft shoes, and a wide hat. Juliana was there, sitting alone. She looked up and gasped when she saw me. Mum. Oh, please, come sit. Pause. I looked at her. Then I walked right past her and sat at a table by the window. A few moments later, a kind older couple joined me. They were friends from the neighborhood. We laughed, sipped tea, and shared stories. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Juliana watching. The same look on her face as the day I stepped out of the moving truck. The look that said, I never thought she'd make it without me. But I had. And I wasn't going back. The air smelled like roses that morning. Fresh. Full of peace. I stood by my window, holding a cup of tea, watching the sunlight fall across my marble floors. Everything was quiet, just the way I liked it. It had been 3 months since I moved into the mansion next to my daughter's. 3 months since she last saw me as just her mother, and finally began to see me as a woman with power. In those months, I had learned something important. You don't need to yell to make a statement. You don't need to fight to win. Sometimes, silence is the loudest revenge. Juliana still tried. She sent me a voice message the night before. Mum, I know you're still hurt, but I really want you to come to Henry's birthday party. He misses you. Please come. Just for him. I looked at the message for a long time. I loved my grandson deeply. He was innocent. But I also remembered the last party I was invited to. It was 5 years ago, before she married Michael. Back then, I was given a broken chair in the corner. No one spoke to me. Not even Juliana. I remembered sitting there alone, holding a tiny plate of food, while people laughed without me. That night, I promised myself, one day, I'll host a party where I'm the one who shines. And so, that morning I made my own plan. Called my neighbors, my lawyer, my new friends from the park. I invited Henry too, through the school, quietly. He had already told me once, Grandma, I wish I could come to your house for my birthday instead. So I decided to do just that. A birthday celebration. My way. Balloons were delivered. White and gold. A chocolate fountain was placed in the garden. A magician came. A real one. With doves and tricks that made children laugh with joy. Tables were covered in soft white cloth. Every guest had a seat. No one sat alone. And in the middle of it all, I stood smiling, dressed in a royal purple gown. The music played gently as people laughed and danced. And then, halfway through the afternoon, she came. Juliana. She didn't walk through the gate. She stood outside, holding Henry's hand. He ran inside, giggling. Grandma, you made a party. I hugged him tightly. For you, my love. Juliana stayed at the edge of the gate, watching. She didn't say a word at first. Then finally, in a small voice, she said, Can I come in? I looked at her. And in that moment, every memory flashed before me. The slammed door. The $8. The bag on the sidewalk. The cold night on that bench. The way she turned her back like I was nothing. I smiled softly. Not today, I said. She blinked, shocked. I'm still healing, I added. And today is about joy, not pain. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Then I said gently, You gave me $8 and thought I'd disappear. I used it to build something bigger than money. I found myself. And with that I turned away and walked back to my guests. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't that woman anymore. The one who begged. The one who waited. The one who cried behind closed doors, praying to be seen. Now I walked with grace. With dignity. With the quiet power of someone who rebuilt her life without anyone's permission. Later that night, when the party was over and Henry had gone home with a balloon and a piece of cake, I sat by the window again. The stars blinked above me. I whispered, "Thank you." To God. To the old me. To the lottery ticket that saved my life. But most of all, to myself. For not giving up. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like anger. Sometimes it looks like a woman living in peace, drinking tea, smiling in her mansion, while the person who once threw her away stands outside, wishing they had treated her better. I am not the same woman who left that house with $8 in her hand. I am Margaret Ellis. And I moved next door. So she would never forget what she lost.